Welcome to class 1 of the 15-day TCS NQT Cracker series. Today we are going to discuss the questions from arithmetic. So let's start. Before I begin this lecture, I would like to tell you that I want you that you pause every question, try to do that question on your own, and then you play the video and see my explanation and see how I have done this. So I would urge you to do this practice over and over again for each and every one of the questions. After you are done with this whole video, you will find the links for the solution PDF and question PDF in the description box below. And with it, you are also going to get a practice test that is free for everybody. And I would urge you to take that test also. So let us start. So this is our first question. So in this question, they are saying is that A can beat B by 160 meter in a 1,000 meter race when A and B run towards each other from the opposite end of the track XY. The difference between the distance traveled by them when they meet is 48 meter. What is the length of the track? So let us first tabulate the things that are given in the question. So in this first line, they are saying is that A can beat B by 160 meter in a 1,000 meter race. So it means that if A and B run together in a 1,000 meter race, so A will cover 1,000 meter and B is going to cover 160 meter less than 1,000 meter, that is 140 meter. So by the time A covers 1,000 meter, B is going to cover 840 meter, and the time taken by both of them is going to be constant. So let us assume that it to be T. So if I know this fact, I can say that SA, that is speed of A divided by speed of B, equal to 1,000 by 840. And I can simplify this thing and I can write that this is 25 and this is 21. So the ratio of speed of A and B is 25 by 21. So this is a known formula or an important formula. The formula is that if the time is constant, then the ratio of the speed of two bodies is equal to the ratio of the distance traveled by them. So I have done this one. Once I have done with this, so let us look at rest of the question. So A and B run towards each other from the opposite end of the track X and Y. The difference between the distance traveled by them when they meet is 48 meter. Let us imagine this track. This is our track. A is running from this direction and B is running from this direction, and they meet at this point. So this is the distance covered by A and this is the distance covered by B. A is going to cover more distance than B because speed of A is greater than B. So from this diagram, you can say that dA plus dB equal to length of the track. This is what we have to find. So let us mark it as equation number 1. And we also know that dA minus dB equal to 48 meter. Why? The difference between the distance traveled by them when they meet is 48 meter. So what is dA? We can write dA as 25 into T, and we can write dB as 21 into T equal to 48. 25 is the speed of A and 21 is the speed of B. So when we calculate this one, we get 4t equal to 48, and we can write that t equal to 12. So I can say that D and B, if both move at the opposite direction, then they meet after 12 seconds. So once we have done this one, let us find the total length of the track. So total length of the track from equation number 1 is dA plus dB. dA and dB can be written as 25 into t plus 21 into t, and t is 12, so 25 into 12 plus 21 into 12. 25 into 12 gives us 300, and 21 into 12 gives us 252. And if we add these two numbers, we get 552 meters. So I can say that the length of the track is 552 meter. That is our option number 4. So I hope this question was clear to you. If anything is confusing you, I would ask you to rewind this video again, go through the concepts again, and try this question on your own. I have also done this question in an alternate way. You can find that alternate way in the solution PDF itself. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment sections. Now, let us go to the next question. Three containers A, B, and C are having mixtures of milk and water in the ratio of 1 is to 5, 3 is to 5, and 5 is to 7 respectively. If the capacities of the containers are in the ratio of 4 is to 5 is to 4 is to 5, find the ratio of milk to water if all the three containers are mixed together. So this is the ratio of milk and water in container A. This is the ratio of milk and water in container B, and this is for C. And this is the ratio of the capacity of the three containers. Before I go on to this question, let us tabulate the facts that we know. So in container A, the ratio of milk and water is 1 is to 5, and the capacity of container A is 5 liter. I can assume that the capacity of A is 5 liter. Container B, the ratio of milk and water is 3 is to 5, and the capacity is 4 liter. Container C, the ratio of milk and water is 5 is to 7, and the capacity is again 5 liter. So now let us look into the first condition and try to find out the amount of milk and water that is present in container A. So let us imagine a container like this. This container is divided into 6 parts. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Total 6 parts. Out of this 6 part, one part is milk, and 5 part is water. So the total capacity of milk in this container is 1 by 6 into 5. 5 is the capacity of this container, that is the 5 liter. So 5 by 6 liter of milk is present in container A, and 5 by 6 into 5, that is 25 by 6 liter of water is present in container A. So this was our workout of the first condition. So what we can do is that we can find out for the rest of the containers. So container A, this is milk and this is water. For container A, the amount of milk is 1 divided by 6 into 5, and amount of water is 5 by 6 into 5. For container B, the amount of milk present is 3 by 8 into 4, and amount of water present is 5 by 8 into 4, according to the same way that I have calculated for container A. For container C, the amount of milk present is 5 by 12 into 5, and the amount of water present is 7 by 12 into 5. So this is the total amount of water present. This is the amount of water present, and this is the total amount of milk present. So if we mix three containers together, this is going to give us the total amount of water present, and this is going to give us the total amount of milk present. So the ratio will be B by A. So we can write out all the facts that we have found out from this above equation. So the total amount of milk will be 1 by 6 into 5 plus 3 by 8 into 4 plus 5 by 12 into 5. This is the total amount of milk that is present when three of the containers are mixed with each other. Total amount of water, 5 by 6 into 5 plus 5 by 8 into 4 plus 7 by 12 into 5. So the total ratio, and if after the complete calculation of this, the final ratio comes to be 53 by 115. I will tell you again, go through this condition properly once. Once you go through the condition, calculate this whole terms yourself and check if you're getting this particular ratio or not. For this condition or for this question, the correct option is A, that is 53 is to 115. So once you have done with this question, let us go to the next question. Now, what they're saying is that a Lexus car agency has 108 cars. He sold some of the cars at 9% profit and rest at 36% profit, and he gains 17% on the sale of all his cars. The number of cars sold at 36% profit is. So let us break down the question first. This salesman has total of 108 cars. Out of this 108 cars, he has sold X cars at 9% profit, and 108 minus X cars at 36% profit. Total there are 108 cars. Out of this 108 cars, X cars were sold at 9% profit, and 108 minus X cars were sold at 36% profit. And then he's saying that after selling all the cars, he get a cumulative profit of 17%. So let us think. Let us assume that the cost price of each of the car is 1 rupee. If the cost price of each of the car is 1 rupee, then the selling price of 108 cars at 17% profit will be 108 into 1, that is the cost price, and for the profit of 17% this will be 1.17. So this gives us the selling price of 108 cars at 17% profit. Similarly, selling price selling price of X cars at 9% profit will be 9 into 1, sorry, X into 1 into 1.09. This is our equation number 2, and selling price 2 equal to 108 minus x into 1 into 1.36. This is the selling price at 36% profit. So this is the information that is given in the question. And again, some cars at 9% profit, some at 36% profit, so the total cumulative gain is 17%. So what I can write is that selling price 1 plus selling price 2 equal to the cumulative selling price. So the final equation will be 108 minus x. I can just ignore this one for now. 108 minus x into 1.36. This is going to be, sorry, I just we can just go through the questions again, not a problem here. Let us continue wherever we were. So the question was, okay. So if you have remembered, let us continue our question once. So the selling price SP1 plus SP2 equal to the final selling price. So selling price number 1 was x into 1.09. I can ignore this one, plus 108 minus x into 1.36. This was the selling price, equal to, I can write as 108 into 1.17. So this is our final equation. And from this final equation, if we solve for the value of x, we are going to get x equal to 76. And x is the number of cars that were sold at 9% profit. So the total amount of cars, or the total number of cars sold at 36% profit, will be 108 minus 76. That is going to be 32 cars. That is your option number A. So this is your final answer. So there are few mistakes that I did in this particular question, and let us try to learn from those mistakes. First, out of this 108 cars, I assume that the number of cars sold at 9% profit to be X, and the number of cars sold at 36% profit to be 108 minus X. But if we look into the question carefully, they are asking me to find the number of cars sold at 36% profit. So I should not do this. If we do this, we have to again find out this 108 minus x. So this is going to make our calculation lengthier. So instead of doing this one, what we are going to do, we are going to assume that the number of cars that are sold at 36% to be x, and the number of cars sold at 9% to be 108 minus x. That way we can directly get the value for x. This is going to give us the total amount, or the total number of cars that are sold at 36% profit. So this is how you read the question properly, decide on your variables, and then you start with your question. So once you're done with this, let us go to the next question. We have two questions here. Before we do this question, let us do this question, question number 5. Let us complete this question and then we can go to question number 4. Okay. So what they're saying is that the LCM of two numbers, these two questions are of same type. So LCM of two numbers is 495 and their HCF is 5 if the sum of the numbers is 100 and their difference will be. So how can we approach this question? One of the important formula that you have to remember, A into B, if A and B are two integers, then the product of these two integers is equal to HCF of A and B multiplied by LCM of A comma B. So the product of the two numbers is equal to the product of the LCM and HCF of the two numbers. So according to the question, they're saying that LCM of A comma B is 495 and HCF of A and B is 5. We are going to keep it like this. So from this above important formula, what we can say that product of A into B is 495 into 5. Do not calculate this. Just keep it as such. So this is going to be our equation number 1. What is the second equation? What is the second equation? They're saying that A plus B equal to 100. Let it be equation number 2. Now, what they are asking us to find out, they are telling us to find A minus B. So let us start with some calculations. I can write A minus B whole square equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB. Fine. A square plus B square can be written as A plus B whole square minus 2AB minus 2AB. So this whole thing can be written as A plus B whole square minus 4AB. So if we calculate this term, we are going to get the value of A minus B whole square. A minus B whole square. So let us start with this question. What we are going to do is that A plus B whole square is 100 whole square. Keep it as such minus 4 into 495 into 5. So what we can do, this is 100 here, fine, and 5 4 into 5 is 20, and we know that 20 into 5 is again going to give us 100. So I'm going to take out a 5 from this particular term. So I will write 100 square minus 4 into 5 into another 5, and this is going to be 99. So this is 100. So 100 square minus 100 into 99. To make the calculations easier, I can take 100 common. So 100 minus 99, and this gives us 100. So this is our final form. So what do we know? We know that A minus B whole square equal to 100. So I can summarize, or I can write it as A minus B equal to 10. So our final answer is A, 10. So throughout this whole question, I haven't done any heavy calculations. What I have done is that I have left the heavy calculation for the end. I have just written the particular forms I have tried to find out the common, and then I have tried to find out the final calculation. So this is our final answer. TCS wants to see how good you are in finding the patterns among the numbers. It is not always about heavy calculation. It is about finding patterns in the numbers. Let us go to question number 5B. It is the same kind of a question and we are going to use the same criteria. They're saying that the ratio of the two numbers are 3:4 and their HCF is 4 and their LCM is. So they are telling me that A by B equal to 3 by 4. So what I can say is that A equal to 3n and B equal to 4n. Fine. Ratio proportion. And from this particular condition, I can see that n is the largest number that can divide both A and both B. So I can write that HCF of A and B is n. Think again. They are saying that ratio of A and B is 3 by 4. So I can write A by B equal to 3 by 4. If this is if this can be written, I can also write A equal to 3n and B equal to 4n. And from these two numbers, I can see that the largest number that can divide A and that can divide B is n. So the HCF of A and B is n. So, and they are also saying that HCF is 4. So I can write n equal to 4. So the value of n is 4. Now, what is their LCM? Product of the two numbers will be 3n into 4n. LCM we have to find out, and the HCF is 4. What we are going to do? Let's see again. This is the product of the two numbers. LCM we have to find, and this is HCF. So instead of writing 4 here, I can just simply put it as n. So let us just simplify the equation first. So this is going to be n, n, only one n will be cancelled. Sorry, this n won't be cancelled. So this will be n and this will be n. So what do we know? X equal to, that is the LCM, is 3 into 4 into n. So what is n here? N is equal to 4 here. So x equal to 3 into 4 into 3 into 4 into 4. So the LCM is 48. So the final is 48. So go through this concept again. This is an important concept. Whenever you get a question of LCM and LCM, you have to use this one. That is, the product of the two numbers is equal to the product of the HCF and LCM. So once we are done with this, let us go to our previous question. That is question number 4. Okay. This is also a very important type. What they're saying. They're saying that what was the day on 15th of August 1947, and to find out the day we have to find out the number of odd days. How we are going to find out the number of odd days, I'm going to explain it to you, and I have also given a table with this. So you are going to receive the classwork PDF of this lecture. You can take a screenshot right now, and I will tell you how you can use this table. If you practice 3 or 4 questions of the same type, I'm sure that you can replicate this table from your memory and you no longer need to uh, take this table in front of you. So now let us go into this question. So what they're saying is that what was the date on 15th August 1947? So we have 1947. So our first task would be to divide this number into two parts. First, 1900, 1946, and the second part will be 1947. 1946 can again be divided into two parts, that is 1900 and that is 46. Now what is the criteria for our first division? So in the first division you can notice that I have taken one less and the year itself. If it is 1947, so this will be 1946 and this will be 47. If it is 59, 1959, so one will be 1958 and the another partition will be 1959. So after we have divided this one, 1946 itself can be divided into two parts, that is 1900 and this is 46. So we have to divide it into the nearest century. So the nearest century to 1946 is 1900. Now let us find out the number of odd days that are present in 1900. So 1900 can be written as 1600 plus 300. Now let us consult the table once. You can see here for 400 years, that means for leap years and century years, the number of odd days is 0. And for 300 years, the number of odd years is 1. So for 600, the number of odd days will be 0. And for 300, the number of odd days from this table, we can see it will be 1. So the number of odd days in 1900 will be 1. Now let us go to 46. When we work with 46, we have to find out the number of leap years and the number of ordinary years in 46 years. So out of this 46 years, 11 of them are leap year and 35 of them are ordinary year. And from this table, we can see that every leap year consists of two number of odd days and every ordinary year consists of one odd day. So I can write that 11 into 2 equal to 22 odd days and 35 into 2, sorry, 35 into 1 is 35 odd days. And if we add them together, we are going to get 57 odd days. Now, divide this 57 by 7 and the remainder we are going to get is 1. So 1900 is one odd year, 46 is one odd year, and whatever left is of 1947. So let us recapitulate what we have done. So for this century year, we divide into this thing 1600 plus 300, so number of odd years, odd days is 1. For 46, we find the number of leap years and we find the number of ordinary years. So each of the leap year consists of two odd days. So it will be 12 into 2, that is 22 odd days, and 35 into 1, that is 35. So that will be total 35 odd days. And if we add them, the total number of odd days will be 57. And we divide 57 by 7, we get a remainder of 1. So the total number of odd days in 46 years is 1. Now let us go to 1947. 15th August 1947. So the number of days we have to find out prior to that. So we have Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June, July, and August. So the number of days in January is 31. February is 28 because 1947 is not a leap year. March is again 31. Then April is 30. May is 31. June is 30. July is 31. And August is 15 because we are considering 15th of August. And if we add all this number, we are going to get 227 days. 227 days divided by 7 gives us 3 as a remainder. So 3 is the number of odd days. So this is 3. So the total number of odd days that is present is 3 plus 1 plus 1, that gives us 5. So the total number of odd days present is 5. And let us consider this table. If the number of odd days is 5, then the corresponding day is Friday. So 15th of August 1947 was Friday. So the correct option is option A, Friday. So once you have looked into this, if you have if you have any confusion or on any step, rewind this video once, go through this video and try to clarify that. And if you're sure that you have understood the concept properly, I would tell you to again try finding out the day of 15th August 1947 by yourself. If you're successful, then go on to this one. I would ask you to pause this video right now. Try 18th March 2016 on your own and check your answer after my explanation. So let us start working on this question. So they are telling us to find the day on 15th of March 2016. So 2016 can be divided into 2015 and 2016. Again, one less and the year itself. 2015 can be divided into 2000 and 15 years. What do we know? We know that a leap and a century year consist of 0 odd days. So this is 0 odd days. For 15 years, we have to find out the number of ordinary days and we have to find out the number of leap years. So for 15 years, there are 3 leap years and we have 12 leap year. Sorry, 12 ordinary year. 12 ordinary year. Each leap year cost us 2 odd days. So 3 into 2. Each ordinary year cost us 1 odd day. That is 12 into 1. So this is 6. This is 12. Adding both of them gives us 18. 18 divided by 7 and the remainder is 4 odd days. So this gives us 4 odd days. Now let us look at 2016 till 18th of March. So we have January, that is of 31 days. We have February, and 2016 was a leap year. So this will be 29 and 6. We are considering till 18th of March rather, not 16th of March. So this is going to be 18. So if we have this, we can add this one. We are going to get 9. This is 9, 18, 1, 5, 5, 6, 7. So this is 78. So I'm going to go over this again. So this is January, this is February, and this is 18th of March. The total number of days is 78. And 78 divided by 7 gives us a total of remainder 1. So the number of odd days is 1. So if I add all the odd days that are present, so we are going to get 0 plus 4 plus 1. So the total number of odd days is 5. So if the number of odd days in 5, you can again look into this one. This is Friday. So the answer of this question is also Friday. There are more questions in the test series, and there are more questions in the questions and solutions PDF. I would ask you to do those questions on yourself and check if you have understood the concept properly or not. For practice, you can take any random day on any random year, try to do that on your own, and check the calendar after doing that if you're getting the correct answer or not. So we are done with this question. We are also done with question number 5. Now let us move on to question number 6. Read the question properly first. First, we have to read the question properly, frame whatever that we know, and then want to solve the question. So they're telling us that seats for mathematics, physics, biology in a school are in the ratio of 5 is to 7 is to 8, and there is a proposal to increase seats by 40%, 50%, 75% respectively. What will be the ratio of the increased seats? Now, as we are dealing with ratio, proportion, percentage, the actual value doesn't matter. What matters is the ratio. So I can say that the number of seats for mathematics be 5, number of seats for physics can be 7, and number of seats for biology will be 8. I can assume that the actual values doesn't matter. Whatever might be the real value, for mathematics it will be the multiple of 5, for physics it will be the multiple of 7, and for biology it will be multiple of 8. I do not care about the actual value. What I care is about the ratio value. So in mathematics, we have 5 seats. In physics, we have 7 seats. And for biology, we have 8 seats. Now, they are telling us that they are going to increase the seats of math by 40%. So the new seats will be 1.4 into 5. Why? Because they are increasing the seats by 40%. If we increase the seats of physics by 15%, it will be 1.5. And if we increase the seats of biology for 75%, this will be 1.75. 1.5 into 1.4 gives us 14 seats. These are our new seats. Sorry, this is not 14. This is actually 7. 5 into 1.4 gives us 7. And 7 into 1.50 gives us 10.5, and 8 into 1.7 gives us 14. Now we have to find out the ratio of the increased seats. So ratio of the increased seats will be 7 is to 10.5 is to 14. And we can see that none of the option matches with the answer that we got. So what we are going to do, we are going to simplify this one. So for simplification, let us write 70. We multiply by 10. This is 105 and this is 14. So every one of them can be divided by 7. So this will be 10, this will be 15, and this will be 20. Then again, we can divide it by 5. This will be 2, this will be 3, and this will be 4. So the final ratio will be 2 is to 3 is to 4. That is our option B. Okay. Now that we are done with this question, this was an easy question. Let us go to the next question. Read the question properly, frame your um, frame your important terms, then we can start with the question. They're saying that find the compound interest. You have to find out the total amount of interest on rupees 8,000 at 15% per annum for 2 years and 4 months compounded annually. So we know that the compound rate is 15% per annum. So let us find out what will be the compound rate for every 4 months. So 15 for a year, and if we divide 12 months by 4, then we are going to 3. So the third part of this percentage will be 5%. So for every 4 month, the amount is compounded by 5%. Now let us see. We have our initial money, and after first year we are going to get some amount of money. This money will be compounded again, and after the end of 2 years we are going to get some more money, and then we are going to get some more money after 4 months. This is the mark up till which we have to find out the compound rate. So for the first year it will be 8,000 into 15 by 100, 15 by 100 into 1, because it's just 1 year, plus 8,000. So it gives us 9200. So the amount at the end of first year is 9200. Again, this amount will be compounded for the next installment. So 9200 into 15 into 100 into 1 plus 9200. So it will be 10580. This will be 10580. This amount will be compounded for the next 4 months, but the rate of interest for the next 4 months will be 4%. So it will be 10580 into 5 by 100 plus 10580, that gives us 11109. This is our final amount. So the total amount of interest earned will be 11109 minus 8000. So the final answer will be 3109. 3109, that is our option B. This is again an interesting question. Let us look into the question carefully and try to solve this question. They're telling us that we have 11 numbers. We have 11 numbers, and the average of all those numbers is 10.9. If the average of first 6 numbers is 10.5 and the last 6 numbers is 11.4, average of 11 numbers is 10.9, average of first 6 numbers is 10.5. We have to find out the middle number. Let us assume that the numbers, 11 numbers, to be n1, n2, n3, dot dot dot, till n11. These are our 11 numbers. So they are telling me that the mean of 11 numbers is 10.9. So what I can write? I can write n1 plus n2 plus dot 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 plus n10 plus n11 is 11 into 10.9. This is our equation number 1. They're saying again that the average of first 6 numbers is 10.5. So what we can write? N1 plus dot 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 till N6 is 6 into 10.5. That is our equation number 2. And again, the last six numbers will be N11 plus N10 plus dot 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 till N6 is going to be till N6 is going to be 6 into 11.4. That is our third equation. We have our three equations and let us just add them. Adding equation number 2 and 3, we are going to get N1 plus N2 plus dot 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 N6 and N6 plus dot 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 N11, because N6 is the term that is occurring in both of this equation. It is equal to 6 into 10.5 plus 6 into 11.4. Leave it as such. So N6 is occurring twice. In the next step, I can write N1 plus dot 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 plus N6 only once plus dot 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 N11 plus N6 outside equal to 6 into 10.5 plus 6 into 11.4. So N1, N2, N3 till N11 gives us 11 into 10.9. So this is 11 into 10.9 plus N6 equal to 6 into 10.5 plus 6 into 11.4. So we can just simplify this question and we can get our final answer. We can take 6 common. 10.5 plus 11 plus 4 is 21.9. And for the final answer, if you calculate this one, you will get N6 equal to 11.6. Sorry, 11.5. So this is our final answer. So the answer will be option number B. So please calculate yourself once. This is an important part. And think why we are getting this one. Because just imagine, mean of n numbers, or like mean of three numbers, gives us a plus b plus c divided by 3 equal to mean. So I can write a plus b plus c equal to mean into 3. So what I can say, sum of the numbers equal to mean of the numbers into sum of the numbers equal to mean of the numbers equal to the number of terms. So this is a simple equation and this is a very intuitive example, a equation. So if you haven't understood this part, I just clarified this part. And then try this question on your own and check if you're getting the correct result or not. So now we're done with this question. Let us go to the next question. Next question is telling us that how many kilograms of sugar costing rupees 9 per kg must be mixed with 27 kgs of sugar of 7 per kg, so that there may be a gain of 10% by selling the mixture at 9.24 per kg. So they are saying that SP of the mixture is 9.24 rupees. That is the selling price. And this selling price gives us a profit of 10%. So what I can write? I can write SP, I can write CP into 1.1, that is 10% profit, equal to 9.24. And from this particular situation, we can calculate the CP. So this is going to be 924 divided by 100 into 10 by 11. Now let us take a chance and check if 924 is divisible by 11 or not. As it turns out, it is divisible by 11, and this gives us 84. This 0 and this 0 is cancelled. So the cost price of the mixture is 88.4 rupees. From the mixture criteria, or from the mixture equation, we know that this is our costlier sugar, this is our cheaper sugar. And if we have to mix them, this is going to be the resultant price, that is 8.4. 7 minus 8.4 gives us 1.4, and 9 minus 8.4 gives us 0.6. So the of cheap ratio of costlier sugar divided by the cheaper sugar is 1.4 divided by 0.6, that is going to be 14 by 6, that is going to be 7 by 3. So the costlier is 9 and cheaper is 7. So they are telling us that the cheaper sugar was mixed with a quantity of 27 kgs. So what do we know? We know that X, that is the amount of sugar costing 9 rupees, divided by 27 is the amount of sugar costing 7 per kg, is equal to 7 by 3. It is the ratio. So the following value of X is 63 kg. So 63 kg of sugar costing 9 kg must be mixed with 27 kg of rupees 7 per kilogram sugar to get a sugar of cost price 8.4 rupees. Now that we are done with this question, I would again ask you to go through this concept again. This is an important question of mixture and alligation. Go through this concept again. Now let us go to the next question. The greatest number which on dividing 1657 or 1657 and 2037 leaves a remainder of 6 and 5 respectively. So what they are saying is that some number is dividing 1657, and after the division it is giving us a remainder of 6, and this same number when it divides 2037 gives us a remainder of 5. So what I can write, let us assume that the number is x. Okay, x multiplied by a number q plus 6 is going to give us 1657. What is this 6? As we know, if we divide a number, let's suppose we are dividing 15 by 4. 4 3 ja 12, and this is 3. So 4 into 3, 4 is the dividend into quotient plus remainder is the number itself. So 1657 will be equal to the dividend x into quotient q plus the remainder. So this is our equation 1. According to the same logic, I can write x into q dash, like some other number is multiplied by x plus 5 gives us 2032. This is equation number 2. And after simplification of equation number 1, we are getting q equal to 1651 after subtracting 6 from this part divided by x, and q dash equal to 2032 divided by x. Now, theoretically theoretically speaking, x is the greatest number which divides both of them. X is the greatest number that divides 1651 and 2032. So by that logic, HCF of 1651 and 2032 should be our value. But these two numbers are very large and the calculation of HCF is going to be very hectic. So we are going to go for the elimination method. So what should be our elimination method? We have four values, and let us check if these four values divide, if these four values divide these following values or not. So if I try 123, 123 does not divide both of the numbers. 235 does not divide both of the numbers. This is eliminated. This is eliminated. And 305 also does not divide both of these numbers. So this is also eliminated. So the only viable option remaining is 127. So the answer is 127. So 127 is the largest number that on dividing 1657 and 2037 gives us a remainder of 6 and 5. So this was our question. Sometimes when the calculations are very big, it is always feasible to go for the trial and error method. Look into the options, try some reverse calculation, and try the method of elimination rather than selection of the correct answer. So this was the 10 question for the today's lecture. So you can get the full materials at free of cost at campusprep.com. After this lecture, what are the things that you are going to get? So the first, you are going to get a copy of this classwork. The classwork that I am done in the lecture, you are going to get a copy of this. Then you are going to get a question plus solution PDF of this particular lesson. And then you are going to get one practice test. So please go through this practice test once, go through this lecture once, solve the questions and solutions. I will be back with more questions on Wednesday. That is our next class. So for the meanwhile, look into our website and go through the materials. You can join our Telegram group and directly communicate with me. You can give us direct feedback of what are the things that you want us to do, what are the questions that you want us to solve, or give us any constructive feedback, and I will surely work upon it. You can also follow our Facebook and Instagram page for more updates. So thank you for joining us today. See you next Wednesday. Thank you.